Autism spectrum disorder is a modern diagnostic category, first formally described in the 20th century. But ancient Greek, Roman, and biblical sources had no equivalent term or systematic understanding. Yet retrospective analyses by historians and neurodiversity scholars suggest that individuals with ASD-like traits existed throughout this period. Homer's Odysseus, described as polytropos or much-turned, shows masking and hyperfocus, possibly autistic traits. In the Old Testament, Samson displays core ASD criteria: social communication impairments, repetitive rituals, restricted interests, and pain insensitivity during strength displays. These traits contributed to survival myths and storytelling traditions. Responses ranged from embracement in oral traditions to abandonment of severe cases as cursed in Hebrew law. By 600 BCE, the rise of philosophy in Athens, and the Hippocratic corpus around 400 BCE, shifted understanding from supernatural to natural explanations. What emerges is a hidden history of neurodiversity that shaped philosophical inquiry, mythological narratives, and societal roles throughout classical antiquity. Our journey spans 8 centuries, from 800 BCE to 500 CE, revealing how ASD-like traits influenced the ancient world. Beginning with the emergence of epic poetry and biblical narratives. Socrates, from 469 to 399 BCE, exhibited social cue difficulties using ironic questioning as a form of social masking. His student Plato pursued transcendent ideas, creating abstract, rigid systems possibly driven by Asperger's traits. Aristotle grounded these in empirical detail, adapting abstract philosophy for practical application. Diogenes the Cynic showed eccentric, repetitive, antisocial acts, describing sensory overload akin to modern autism. His unconventional behavior challenged social norms. The Hippocratic corpus shifted understanding from supernatural to natural explanations of unusual behaviors, viewing odd behaviors as humoral imbalances. ASD-like traits fueled abstract philosophy that challenged social norms, influencing ethics and democratic thought. While Sparta exposed disabled infants at birth, Athens integrated eccentric scholars and philosophers. Hippocrates attributed melancholic dispositions, resembling ASD rumination, to natural causes. Alexander's conquests from 336 to 323 BCE blended Greek thought with Eastern influences, creating new contexts for understanding human diversity, setting the stage for Stoic emphasis on disciplined routine. Stoics like Zeno of Citium emphasized repetitive self-discipline, possibly echoing ASD-like need for routine and structure, while Epicureans noted dreamy, isolated individuals. The 12 Tables laws codified disability rules, as Rome expanded its legal and cultural integration, creating frameworks for understanding human difference. Emperor Claudius, from 10 BCE to 54 CE, displayed clear ASD traits: speech impediments, clumsiness, repetitive tics, yet rose from mocked fool to effective ruler. His hyperfocus contributed to administrative innovation and systematic approaches to governance. Tax collectors like Crassus showed ruthless focus, possibly ASD hyperfocus driving their success. Literature featured autistic-coded isolated characters, while Cicero noted melancholic senators with social withdrawal. Galen, around 200 CE, attributed unusual behaviors to humors, advising isolation for those deemed maniacs, yet also mandating care for severe disabilities. Mild cases were integrated and protected by families, while educational systems adapted to different learning styles. As Christianity began to influence Roman thought, attitudes toward human difference began to evolve. By 200 to 500 CE, empire fragmentation and Christianization incorporated biblical views of human diversity. Emperors like Julian showed philosophical obsessions, while early church fathers developed rigid theological systems. Augustine's systematic theology, possibly influenced by ASD traits. Monasteries became shelters for neurodiverse individuals. Christianity shifted attitudes toward charity and inclusion, with canon law prohibiting infanticide by 300 CE. ASD-like individuals were often revered as holy fools. Ancient Hebrew texts lack explicit references to autism, but modern Jewish scholarship identifies Moses as potentially autistic. Stuttering, social withdrawal, with Aaron as divine accommodation. Joseph exhibits ASD-aligned traits: poor social cue reading, ethical rigidity, repetitive dreams, and savant-like interpretation, framed not as flaw, but as purposeful for leadership. Rabbinic sources portray these traits as divine strengths, aligning with Torah's view of all creations as intentional. Contemporary Judaism embraces neurodiversity as sacred variation, This neurodiverse lens reveals antiquity's hidden diversity, challenging uniform neurotypical histories. From philosophical innovation to administrative excellence, ASD traits subtly shaped classical thought, leaving a legacy of empathy and inclusion.